So, one of the greatest songs, in my opinion, that has ever been written, Hotel California. Okay, it does the same. There's basically two chord progressions to this whole thing. The verse, over and over and over, and then the chorus. Now, the verse is the part that we want to talk about because there's something happening in there that, again, is illogical. It's a bit different. So we have B minor, which really kind of sounds like, in my opinion, the home chord. But let's try and define this a little bit and see what we come up with. So we've got B minor, and we've got F sharp major, and then we've got A major and E major. Okay, and G major and D major. You see, so all of a sudden we've got all these major chords, kind of like the Jimi Hendrix song, where it's like, what? Now again, somebody might have borrowed an idea from some other song or another artist and blah, blah, blah. And of course, we know this is how, great songs are written. You borrow the great parts of great different songs. But this is kind of weird because we're all over the place, right? So trying to define this is going to be a little bit hard. First, do this. We're going around. Is that this song uses both an E minor and an E major within that first chord progression. But yet, when you listen to the song, you might not even notice it. Or if you do, you might just, again, it sounds so smooth that you don't go, wow, that's very strange. There's something really weird in there. It does give it a bit of a dark feel. There's no doubt about it. Okay? But let's just kind of look at what we've got here. So we've got an B minor, F sharp, A, D. Well, let's take a look at some of the chords that we have here, okay? B minor, again, feels like home to me. So if we were going to look at this song as using D, G, and A, and just stay with me for a second. So D, G, and A as our three major chords, okay? D, G, and A, would we get a B minor? Yes, conveniently. Not so conveniently. If we were in the key of D, we have D, G, and A. B minor would be your sixth chord. If we are in the key of D, E minor would fit, which is your 2 chord. F sharp does not fit in the key of D. You should have an F sharp minor, and you don't get that. You get an F sharp major. So again, there's some discrepancy there as to what it is that we would like to do in terms of that chord. And then we have the E and the E major thing happening, which is kind of weird as well. So we can go back and forth and try and define all of these chords as being in a particular key, or borrowing chords from various keys, and there's all kinds of different theories behind this. And if you enjoy that kind of discussion, I would recommend reading about the key that the song is in, and we could discuss that at a later date. I'm not going to spend an hour trying to dissect this song. That might be a course in itself. But my point is that the song's core is B minor. And then we do all these other various chords. Now, if you were to look at, for instance, the solo or the melody, which is always a really great thing to be able to do, the solo, in some parts, now hopefully you're kind of familiar with what the solo sounds like, but the solo for me really serves two purposes. One is that it has a tendency of mirroring the melody that Don Henley is singing to a certain degree, not verbatim, but to a certain degree. And then the other parts of the solo are somewhat bluesy in nature, which is a lot of the Joe Walsh kind of ones. Now, again, the whole solo isn't like that. There's all kinds of solo happening in this song. And then the end of the solo where they're doing the whole harmony thing, what they're doing is playing what we call triads and following the chords as they move. So what's kind of neat about this is that this, again, I can't tell you who wrote the song. Well, I can tell you who wrote the song, but I can't tell you what they were thinking, right? So what we have to think about is, what would our approach be if we were going to use something like this in our own songwriting, and we were going to solo over the top or write a melody over the top? What would we do? Well, the one thing you have to be aware of is, as each chord is coming along, you're going to nod to each chord as best you can. Now, let me show you what I mean. we know that if we were going to solo over the top of this song, we could generically just solo B minor pentatonic, and it would work for the most part, okay? If we took a little bit deeper look, and we started kind of breaking down some of the things that are happening in that solo, which I would encourage you to do. It's one of the greatest solos, again, for me, that's ever been written. They're following these chords to a certain degree, so everything isn't fitting in B minor pentatonic completely. They're playing B minor pentatonic as kind of an outer shell. And then when these chords come up that don't really fit perfectly, they're changing notes. There. Okay, so we have so when it goes to that F sharp, we have already kind of talked about how if we were going to be playing in the key of D, F sharp doesn't really fit. Well, that's how they solve it. So he goes, instead of going to B like he should, he goes to this note, which is B flat, okay? Or we can call that A sharp, which is actually part of that chord. So he's targeting notes as the chords are coming up. He's changing his solo to target that, which is perfect. It's exactly what we should be doing. Instead of just playing in the pentatonic scale and just aimlessly moving around, he's very aware that this chord is coming, so I got to do something different because it's a non-key chord, right? It doesn't fit. So in my solo, I've got to acknowledge that to a certain degree. And that kind of stuff is all over in that solo. So again, a wonderful song to take a look at, even if you don't learn all the 12, the 12 string parts and all that sort of thing, just looking at the chords and maybe the melody of the song or some of the solo would really give you some great ideas.